Since 1945, Weatherby's been building the finest firearms and ammunition in the world. And today, we're proud to continue that legacy from our facility in Sheridan, Wyoming. This is On Our Mark, the Weatherby podcast.
All right. Welcome back to On Our Mark, the Weatherby podcast. We got a very special episode today. My co-host is Raleigh Whalen. Raleigh, you've been on the podcast a couple times. Maybe just remind the folks what you do here.
Yeah, they let me on once before, and I'm Raleigh Whalen and Director of Sales, and I'm very excited for this episode. I've been looking forward to it for a long, long time.
You've been hyping this one up pretty good. I mean, so for you viewers, we have Frack Outdoors here today. So maybe introduce you guys yourselves, starting with you, Mr. Steve.
Well, I'm Steve Davis. Of course, I work with H&G Outdoors. We've been sales reps for Weatherby for over 20 years, and got to know Raleigh in the last 5 or 6 years, and it's been a great relationship so far, and I hope he doesn't screw that up.
And someone who doesn't really need an introduction, but Randy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Randy Clark. I've been with H&G for, probably 28 years now, something like that. And I've had Weatherby, long time, 20-some years. So, and cover Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And been with Raleigh, got to know this guy for a while. And now I like working with him and enjoy that. So.
Yeah, Raleigh, maybe just explain our little sales structure. We say at H&G, we talked about selling Weatherby, but maybe just kind of explain top level how we get these guys selling guns for us.
Yeah, so our sales reps are spread out across the country. We have H&G Outdoors nationwide for our domestic sales, and they cover all of our distributors and dealers as well. So they represent other brands. Their favorite brand, obviously, is Weatherby, but the advantage to having third-party reps is we don't have to pay them a salary. They they have to work and sell guns to get food on the table,
and we don't have to be here around you guys every day. Because that could actually be a problem.
Yeah, our productivity would nosedive if we had these two guys in the office every day, because it'd be like a non-stop podcast probably, because that's all we would
I
be
would
doing.
promise that, yeah.
And the other advantage to the dealer is that they don't have 500 people walking in the door trying to sell them something. They just have one guy that represents how many brands? 15 brands roughly. So they can hit a lot of different brands at the same time. So it's handy for us. We kind of share that representation with several other brands. They still do a great job of representing us and being there for us. So they help us at trade shows. They pick us up from the airports, and everything in between. And they've been doing it for a long time. Actually, Randy's dad was a sales rep for Weatherby
for a long time.
When Tyler was in diapers.
Yeah. Back when I had short hair. Another big advantage
when Randy had hair.
When Randy had, Randy had as much hair as I did.
There you go.
Another big advantage is you guys are local. You get to represent one little part of the country, and you kind of know what's going on. You're kind of the boots on the ground. I know you guys give me a ton of good feedback when it comes to being an HQ, just what's going on out there and what people like and what people like to shoot. So it's I think that's one of my favorite things is just knowing that regionality and kind of how people, because every part of the country is so different.
Well, since you went there, let's just talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Randy and I both cover Pennsylvania. Randy covers Western Pennsylvania. I cover Eastern. And it is literally, and him and I have talked about this a million times. The difference in the two territories that we have is astronomical. And it was many years ago. We were talking, and Weatherby, he blew it out of the water hundreds of thousands of dollars of Weatherby. I, on the eastern side, struggled to do 50. But I had an AR line that I did hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he did 50. So just in one state alone, it is very regional.
Regional, cultural, all kinds of things.
Yeah. Because I'm near the cities.
Yeah.
And he's got Pittsburgh, but outside of that, it's all mountains.
Well, I mean, Pennsylvania in general, that's where, like, I think it's either number 1, 2, or 3, somewhere in there of the amount of hunters in a single state, right?
Yeah, it used to be number 1 for a while.
Yeah.
Everybody can hunt right out their back door. That's what I noticed when I was touring around.
Yeah.
And you also cover Maryland.
Right.
And you cover West Virginia.
Delaware, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of those states, areas in those states, you can't even use a regular centerfire. It's got to be a straight wall if you're going to use something other than a shotgun.
So a lot of those guys come out west, though, to hunt.
Yep.
That's why they buy Weatherby.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Who's Frick and who's Frack? Just so the
Man, that is an
audience
awesome
knows.
question, because that is one of the first questions almost always. I'm Frick. And the reason is because I live on Frick Avenue.
Like
In my
legitimately,
town,
like in your town.
I live on Frick Avenue, so I'm Frick. He's Frack. And the way that whole thing ever come about to begin with, we were in a booth one time, I think it was at a SHOT Show. And Tyler, you know this. When you're working a show, all these guys coming in that own a camera or a cell phone or that think they can video a hunt come in and they want a sponsorship, man.
Yep.
And even if it's 10 hats, they want to be sponsored.
They want something, yeah.
So after the end of the show, these guys were just wearing the marketing guy out all day long. And I told Randy, I said, let's just go over there and kind of make a pitch to him. And I introduced it as Frickin' Frack Outdoors, and we were looking for a sponsorship. And, of course, he kind of played along, and he's like, well, what kind of equipment are you running? I said, we don't run equipment. We need the sponsorship to be able to buy the equipment. So 20 years later, we still don't have any of that. So let's talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get you signed up.
Maybe get us put on.
We can check out. I think we got a camcorder that we can check out to these guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we can fix it. Any problems, we can fix that in post. So.
And we do have an Instagram page, but we don't have any posts. So let's
because you're still figuring out a cell phone.
Well, let's
right?
do that today.
Yeah.
We'll take a picture of this, and that will be our first post.
So, if anyone has Instagram out there, be sure to
Frickin' Frack Outdoors.
Frack Outdoors after this. You may find something.
All right. So this is one question that kind of popped in my head when Raleigh was saying that your dad, Randy, also used to sell Weatherby. Do you have any moment where you're like, man, this is like a Weatherby moment in your head from growing up or anything?
Wow. That can be a toughie. Probably just in general, my dad had one of his original rifles that he always hunted with a lot was a 257 stainless black and fluted rifle, spider web stock. It was one of the initial ones that they introduced, and he killed several deer with that. And of course, that kind of stuck in my head, you know what I mean? You know, because that was one of his favorite rifles at the time, you know, and it was and still is. That's the one he goes to the gun cabinet for every time. That's, you know, now of course that he's up there in years, obviously it's it really truly is. I mean, that's what really probably stuck in my head. You know, you're hunting whitetail deer in Pennsylvania, and it's kind of a big deal out there. It's kind of a family core thing, you know, I mean, and that's how we all grew up, and really how I really kind of foundational part of Weatherby from my standpoint, where I, you know, kind of went through all the 9 locking lugs, all that whole 9 yards, you know, and the ins and outs of that. So that would have been, oh my, late 80s probably, something like that. So pretty significant, you know. 240 Weatherby was always one of his favorites too, those 2 cartridges in general. So probably that's why I like 240s a lot. Kind of grew up around that a lot, and stuff. So, yeah.
How did you get in the industry? It was something about driving a van loaded full of guns.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got started in the business, I mean, like video and like Steve was saying about how that all started, there was none of that, I feel it ancient, but I'm not, but.
No, you are.
But, started working for a wholesaler at the time. My dad and I grew up in that local town there, and just kind of was one of those deals, and one thing led to another, and just kept climbing the ladder, and basically became a manufacturer's rep, and very, very appreciative of, obviously Bob Geruso. My interview was a turkey hunt. That's how I got hired with H&G, back years ago, again, 28 years ago. So, but through all that, learned a lot of people, relationships. What's kind of unique about that whole situation, when I go back and roll the clock back, some of those same customers are still there that I dealt with back in the 80s and early 90s, so that relationship's a really big piece to the puzzle from a rep's perspective. Some have passed on or but there's a lot of them that are still there, that are still carrying, the Weatherby brand, and that started way back then, So it's a while. So I mean, overall, probably 35 years I've been in the business. I was 18 when I started. Everybody says, "Hey, where'd you go to school? Where'd you get?" I went to the hard knocks of school, basically, and many things through that whole thing really got you started to what you use today. So,
I mean, you have a saying, and it's kind of a fun office thing now, but you say you're in the gun selling business.
I'm in the gun selling business.
Yeah, and it's funny because that actually sticks around. I mean, there's not a week that doesn't go by here in the office that someone doesn't reference, we're in the gun selling business, and everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yep. So,
yeah, Steve, what about you? What made you decide to start selling guns and outdoor products?
Well, I'll tell you, it kind of goes back to his dad a little bit as well. The long story is, I right out of school, I worked at a lumber yard and kind of did all that, and then I went to Walmart and I became a manager, and I was just about ready to get moved on, and I put in my vacation for the first 3 days of gun season, and the manager walked out and said, "Hey, I got your vacation request, but managers don't get time off after Black Friday." So 2 weeks later, I'm looking for a job, and I just so happened to find an ad for a store manager in the town over next to me, and I went in and talked to them. Worked there for 9 years. I got to know Randy's dad because he called on the store. And of course, you know how shy I am. It's kind of hard for me to, make relationships and whatnot. But got to know Dusty pretty well, and he called me one day at the store, and I picked it up, and he said, "Hey, Stevie," he said, "What do you think about doing?" Or I think he said, "When do you plan on leaving there?" And I was like, I get off at 5. Thinking
that's what he was talking big picture.
And he was talking, when are you ready to move on? And I was like, oh, well, what do you got? And he told me what it was. I interviewed, and 21 years later, here I sat. So his dad was responsible for the jump that I made, and it's a significant jump, and it's a life changer.
Yeah,
in many different ways. I mean, it's
pretty awesome. It kind of just. It's cool how like the outdoor industry really is relationship based. I mean, there's a lot of almost based on family too, and I think that's why H&G Weatherby is such a good fit for that, because we have a lot of the same sentiment here, where it's we're selling guns, but we're kind of selling an experience and quality and family values and memories and moments, right? So I think that's kind of
his
cool.
dad also said Randy started down his pike a minute ago. He made the comment years ago, and it's still true. once you cover your territory and you've got your customers, nobody can take those from you. You've always got them. If you lose a line or something goes bad where you're not set, you still have that customer. So when you get a new line, you've always got them. They're always there, and it's funny how a lot of times these guys will come with you, and that's from treating people decent, and making a relationship.
Well, and it's you hit on it, and I said that from the core, in my opinion, has always been family. Steve's always been structured that way. Of course, that's the way Weatherby is. It's a family core thing, and I think those values are really, really important from our standpoint, even in the rep world, and people recognize that, and that's really important. Steve's got strong family values himself, and that's kind of where my dad actually got me involved in the business, and what I always appreciated, and I'm still very thankful to this day, is he showed you, but he didn't do it, and I think that's really important from a rep standpoint because of the relationship part of it. He had a real good eye for finding the right guy, as Steve said. He basically kind of, hey, this guy will fit our group or whatever, and
handpicked him.
Yeah. So those are things that are really important. So I just think that's the part that I've always appreciated about my dad being in the rep business.
And he was one of the best. I mean, he's more. I really believe he's a legend.
Yeah,
I think everybody knows
say
that.
earlier.
He did very little by the book. He did it his way, and a lot of times it was head scratching stuff, man.
Yeah, so he was writing his own book
absolutely.
at that point.
I witnessed it. He's witnessed it. He'll go to a manufacturer mid-show and say, "Hey, we're done. We're not doing this. Here's what we're doing." And we're going to do it, and we're going to write a lot of business. And the next 2 days, the manufacturer just sat back and watched it happen. I mean, I saw him do that a lot.
Yeah.
First 4 years
cool.
I worked
for sure
with the company. He stayed on and kind of helped with the transition, and I got to do a lot of shows with him, and he knew how to get her done.
It's probably because he was listening to his customer. Right?
Absolutely.
That's where,
and he had a feel for it as well. That's part of this business, just kind of having a feel for it. Mm-hmm. You kind of got to know the consumer, you got to know the manufacturer, and you got to know everything in between. And there's a lot of battles fought from our standpoint, and we fought them, Raleigh and I. And then I had to go back and fight this guy for Raleigh's standpoint. And that's what makes it all work. And then everybody understands one another, and you come to an agreement or come together on an idea, and you execute it. And we've done pretty well with that.
Yeah, for sure. When I was out there visiting you and your family and met Dusty, I just remember he still has all of his Weatherbys.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of passion for him. We took time, and he took them all out of the safe and showed them off to me, and they're just beautiful old Mark Vs that he's had for years. And it was pretty cool to see just the passion that he still has for the brand.
Yep.
And he still hunts.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably one thing that I probably, from a sales perspective, you got to recognize that part of it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've always respected him for that. That's probably one thing that I noticed right out of the gate, when I first got hired with H&G, and it was like, man, he's really passionate, and of course I followed suit with that, the passion and appreciation and but he never did it for me, you know what I mean? It was like, I'll tell you that you did that wrong. This is what you should have did.
Yeah. This
is how you should have handled it. And again, that's sometimes can be a lost thing today, but the passion part, that was always significant, for sure.
Do you guys have any advice for a rep or someone starting off in sales or a similar, just starting off in life that doesn't have a mentor like you guys had in Dusty?
find one.
Yep.
For real.
It's good advice.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody's got that guy. Like if you know, and I did when I started hunting. I my dad didn't hunt, and I ended up starting out with some guys from my church. You know, I would go on Sundays and talk to these guys, and I was fascinated by all the stories and all. I clinged on to them, and then, you know, you just find people. And that comes back to relationships as well, just trying to treat people decent.
Yeah.
And you can go a long way just by treating people like you want to be treated. And I know that sounds a little stupid, but I really do that. And I know Randy does as well, and I think we all in this room do.
Yeah.
But that's very important. And you find a mentor, and you go.
I was gonna say, what do they say? You're like the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So if there's someone that you want to be, you just need to find that person and listen, right?
Yeah. And that's why Randy tried to find me, so he could be.
yeah, you know, and that's kind of, you know, you guys are talking about this, you know, Steve and I have, you know, we make a joke about the frickin' Frack Outdoors, but, you know, we became real good buddies because of it, you know, talk about a vision, you know, my dad, you know, seen that, and I mean, Steve and I get along fine, and, you know, there's some arguments along the way, but, you know, we're still friends, and, you know, and we hunt together, so it's a little both ways there. We work, but we hunt together too. So we've had a great time, you know.
And that was from day one. I had to, he had a shoot to do with Grace Gun Shop. And I'm brand new to any of this. I didn't even know what all that was. And he said, just come up and I'll show you. And then from that day, walked in his house. He had 3 little girls at the time. I think the oldest one may have been 11, maybe. I know she wasn't 12. And then the other ones were right down from it. And it was like almost immediately, within the second time I was up there, these kids are calling me Uncle Steve, and we're, you know, playing on the swing sets and doing, and I've been that way with his family and his friends of the family for 21 years.
Yeah. How many hotel rooms have you guys stayed in together over the years?
6,327.
Who snores louder?
Well, I think we both do our share. Yeah, we kind of make a joke sometimes when it's rare, but when we do a show or we're somewhere where the other one isn't, and I always make a joke. You know, you probably didn't recognize me without Randy.
For sure.
Because we're always, you know.
Yep. Frickin' Frack.
Yeah, well, you guys live in an interesting part of the world. There's a couple of things that stand out to me just about where you guys live. Is like, to me, there's like a Pennsylvania deer camp. That's just like something that I feel like I want to experience one day. It's just like one of those, like, you have all these like elk hunting and doing all that stuff, but like Pennsylvania deer camp and then like East Coast waterfowl. Those are like the 2 things that stand out to me about kind of that area that you guys live in. So, real quick, do you guys want to share about some of the hunting stuff you do? Are you guys deer hunters, duck hunters? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, you know, earlier, Pennsylvania, deer, when I started out hunting, you know, my uncle had a big farm, and, you know, it was a big deal. Again, going back to the family part of it, you know what I mean? It was like a bunch of guys, 25 guys together. We did deer drives at that time. That's how I started out. There wasn't tree stands, you know, unless it was homemade. It wasn't commercialized or anything like that, you know. So again, but it was not as much, you know, yeah, we wanted to be successful on the hunt, but it was about being together with your family and your friends, and it was a big deal. I mean, you know, Thanksgiving, you know, boy, everybody got out there. The next day they were sighting their rifles in. Monday morning come, and that's the first day opening PA. You know, and that's kind of a statewide thing too. You know what I mean? It's not really. So you get into like north central PA. You see a lot of that. There's a lot of like deer camps, and, you know, guys will. The day after Thanksgiving, guys are going to their deer camps, you know, and it's a more of a traditional thing. And one of the things that kind of just thrown us here recently within the last few years, it kind of messed it up. They started opening on Saturday, and people were kind of upset about it, you know, and rightfully so, because it kind of changed the tradition of what went on. You know, Monday morning was always opening day, you know.
Well, the big thing with that was you'd have Thanksgiving with your family. Friday morning, you drive to your camp, and then you take your inventory of, what food and drinks and whatever you needed, and you go to the store, and then you go to the restaurant, and you go to the bar, and then Saturday morning you get up and you do it all again, the restaurants and bar, and then Monday morning you hunt. Well, they took all that away, and some of the smaller towns really took a hit from that, because now the guys just take it with them Friday afternoon and they're hunting Saturday.
Was it where it opened Saturday and was Sundays? Could not hunt on Sundays,
Could
or
not hunt
could
Sunday.
not hunt
Could not
Sunday,
Sunday,
even
yeah.
with the Saturday opener. Like
Well,
here's a reason-
that just
or is
started.
That all okay.
It
Yeah,
just
it
started.
used to be a Monday opener. So like I say, you'd have Friday, Saturday, Sunday to hang out, and that was the part for me. I've always said the thing that I hate most about deer hunting is deer hunting. I love everything before it, and I love everything after it. But I hate sitting in a stand, and if anybody knows me, I hate sitting in a stand by myself.
'Cause who would
and
you
I can't
talk
even
to?
talk.
I can't picture you trying to sit still.
It is hard. It is really hard.
Yeah.
But I myself, I've done it all, man. I can tell you that through the years, I've waterfowl hunted ducks, geese separately. For a while, I was into shooting crows in the off season, in January and whatnot. I've done the deer, bow, and so I've had somewhat of experience with all of it.
Yeah, I want you guys to talk a little bit about rabbit hunting, because I know your dad has a couple of
Oh yeah,
rabbit. What do you call them? Rabbit hounds, or
Yeah,
rabbit?
we have beagle dogs, so just such a great time, man. I mean, to me again, it's not about killing the rabbit, man. It's like listen to that dog run that rabbit and watch that dog circle that rabbit. And grew up that way, same deal. We've always had them at our house, and that was always kind of a big thing. Steve had a tremendously good lab that he waterfowl hunted with, and He did rabbit hunting, but then when he come up and we started hunting together, and I said, oh yeah, he'll circle it back around.
Yeah, when I did it, you just walked out and found a patch of brush and jump up and down on it, and then a rabbit or two run out, and you shoot them. But then when I went up with them, that is a whole different ballgame. It's cool, man. And that's one of those interactive things. See, I can do that.
Yeah.
In particular, you talk about a hunting story. It's kind of a cool thing, and one of the first times he's ever up there, I was like, oh man, he said, well, they bring it back. Oh yeah, the dog bring it back, and literally the dog circled the rabbit, and he's kind of antsy over here. The rabbit runs right past him. I mean, like at 5 feet, and he's like, it couldn't shoot, So it's like, yeah, you're one line. The dog does bring it back. I said, yeah, oh yeah. So it's kind of a fun deal. So
Do you primarily use 20 gauge in that, or 410? Or
Yeah, I did, but I tell
Yeah.
you, then I used a 410 one year, and I took bird shot for some stupid reason, and I was stinging them. So 20 gauge probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of guys use a 410.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot
Because they'll bring them. They bring them to you. They work them right to you, man. So it's not like you're shooting, like we did. They run out of a brush pile and you're shooting 30, 40 yards. They'll bring them right to you.
That's cool.
You
I've
can
never
just
done
sit
that
there with your Cindy coffee cup and
Well, yeah,
wait
kinda.
for them to come in.
I
right?
mean, you're walking. You are walking. And Randy's good at it. I mean, I've only done it a couple times, but I knew the first time I went up I was going to be doing it more. Those dogs just do all the work. You just kind of get strategic. He kind of knows where to tell you to be, and then you just go there. The first time I was trying to get in line to get, and I wasn't getting it, but he knows where to put you, and then you just wait.
It's kind of funny how the rabbit will cross the same place. You think it's kind of weird, but they'll stop. They'll jump off the track, and to try to throw the dog off, and just really cool to do it. They'll take short circles, and then if he brings it around, and finally you'll know when he holes, the dog quits barking. The rabbits went whole. But grew up that way. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. Again, back to the family thing. You know what I mean? It's like, family, friends type thing. So to me, that's a big part of me, and I know it was with Steve, and like I said, it's cool deal, so, but
Kind of like our pheasant hunts out here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We
sure.
used to have
Yeah.
that back home, too, but we don't have it anymore. But we used to have it just like you have it here. And you could, I think it was a roster.
Yeah.
You could take out up to 30 guys, and they did her. And they line a cornfield and,
Yeah.
exactly what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's just something about hunting with a dog too. Just makes everything better. Whether
Yeah.
it's upland or waterfowl or rabbit dogs, bear dogs, all kinds of dogs.
Well, you said that, and they I think they do that with the bear dog, some, so. And that's kind of pretty much my whole territory, Even West Virginia, same deal. Their deer season comes in the week of Thanksgiving. So
Will you please silence your phone? We're in a podcast.
Honest to God, how rookie is that?
so
He
but
doesn't know how to silence it.
it's all pretty cool. I mean, them 2 weeks is pretty solid in the East, for deer hunting. So a lot of differences between here and the West.
There's another thing out home that with dogs that you probably wouldn't even think about. I'd give you 5 guesses, but fall turkey hunting.
Fall turkey hunting with dogs.
Yep, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it's like a Brittany Spaniel or a Cocker Spaniel, and they bust the flock up. The dog would bust the flock up, and then right where you bust them up, then they sit down and cover the dog up with a blanket or whatever.
Start calling them poults
Calling them back
yeah.
in, yeah.
Or I guess they're not poults at that time, but
Well, they're
start
big
calling them.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool.
And I
Wow.
think I don't know how many states out there it is legal in, but it is a big deal in some areas, and those dogs go for big money. I mean, it takes something to train them dogs to do that, like Steve said, and they cover them up, and pretty cool deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity out in the East. There is here as well. It's just all different.
Yeah.
Just all different.
So maybe let's transition in that difference, right? So you guys are, maybe didn't grow up thinking about running west, but maybe tell why you guys are here. You guys are here to hunt out west, essentially.
Yeah.
You guys may not draw tags, but
Yeah.
every year you guys try to kind of come out west from the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like cover. Compared to eastern side, it's wide open, lot longer shots here. 500 yards here, and versus at home, you're probably 300 yards and down. Comparison, unless you get in a field somewhere, and then you might get a 600-yard shot, and that's still pretty rare out there compared to here. And just differences, when you're hunting antelope out here, it's a cool hunt. I mean, it's again, you're coming back, it's kind of conversing back and forth, and pretty exciting, that part of it. And just hunting coyotes is a lot different out here too, because there's not as much cover. They get in the draws and so forth. So compared to at home where, there's a lot more cover. So
Yeah. And here it's like it's so wide open, you're like, there can't be anything there. And then you start calling coyotes, and all of a sudden they're coming out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
The biggest thing for me, and I've been coming out here, I was very fortunate through my life. For whatever reason, I was able to make it happen, where I was able to come out and mule deer hunt in Colorado. Got a couple pretty nice muleys through the years. Got to kill an elk in Colorado. And I've been out quite a few times, and a lot in the last 20 years, several times with Randy. The thing that sticks in my mind the most when somebody asks that question, the smell.
Yeah.
When you walk out and it's a cool morning, and the smell of sage, I think about that all year long. That's my favorite part of coming out here. I mean, obviously the hunting and all, but that's the one thing that sticks in my mind always is the smell. It's like fresh air.
Except this time it smells like
smoke.
smells like smoke.
Like burning sage.
Yeah.
well, though, when we obviously come through Rapid City, South Dakota, and up past Devil's Tower and all that, and we just stopped just to get out the stretch, and that was you could smell that right away, like Steve said. And the one guy that was with me said, "What is that?" And I said, "That's the sage smell out here." You know.
Now, the one thing I don't like is when you kneel down to get on the spotter or to take the shot, and you kneel in all them cactus.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I still have cactus in my knee from like 3 years ago out here.
Yeah, last year, Randy and I had to belly crawl. He was putting a stock on an antelope, and we belly crawled right through a bunch of cactus, and I had it in my knee.
Yeah.
4 months after we hunted, and just pulled the last one out, and it was just a sigh of relief at that point.
I was going to say, it takes like months for them to like
fester out.
Slowly, slowly fester out, slowly push the way out. It's like, there's nothing I can do about this.
Yeah. You think you get them all out, and then keeps hurting a week later, and then finally it gets better just in time for the next hunting season. Yeah. So I think one thing that I see from the eastern hunters that come out is when they just look out over the landscape and they're like, how far is that over there? And
we were talking about this downstairs.
It might be 3 miles away. Really? It looks like it's right there.
Yeah.
They're just blown away with how far they can see out here.
Yeah, you can find an elk you want to shoot, and you got to walk a couple hours to get to where you can even begin to get a rangefinder, a reading on your rangefinder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's probably another thing. It's a lot different, just trying to figure that out,
Yeah, it's like a 100-acre lease back home. If you get a 100-acre lease here, it's not going to do much for you. Like, you can cover it in a morning, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that like Steve and I would, like I said, we hunt together because we work together and all that stuff. But again, it comes back if you really enjoy the passion of hunting, and it's different when you come out here.
And you don't need to sit in a tree stand. It's a 2-on-1.
So the passion's always there, to go do it. And, whether you're hunting an antelope or you're hunting a whitetail or whatever, just different. And it's a different experience, obviously. That I appreciate that a bunch, so.
Somebody wrote in. Let's see here.
Somebody wrote in.
Oh, I got one here from a Scott Bishop. He asks, who's the better shot?
Wow.
And there's a follow-up question as well.
Is there? So you?
Oh, you're
Raleigh,
stepping on my cord.
Sorry, Raleigh. Were you being smart and you did like a Q&A with your guys' group message or something?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to say.
Be careful. Because we both know things about the other.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty even.
It's even. I would agree.
It's pretty even.
It's even.
Look at you guys just finishing each other's sentences.
They know they have to spend a week
I like
together.
that answer. That's a fair one.
Who's the better turkey caller?
Oh, by far me.
Really? Man,
Thank you, Bishop. Appreciate that.
we appreciate that, Scott Bishop.
We both do pretty good on turkeys.
Steve, how is your boat running?
That's a whole separate podcast, my friend. But as of this weekend, it's in good shape. No holes. Props fixed. It's all good.
What is your favorite color?
Is that, we got one of those, huh? I thought you were about to say caliber, and then you said color.
Well, Caller. What Caller?
Caller.
Yeah.
My favorite color?
Caller.
I wouldn't even. I don't know.
Well, what color's a turkey head?
Yeah, red,
Depends what
white,
mood is
and
he
blue.
in. Yeah.
red, white, and blue.
Yep.
Red and light blue?
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
yeah. I like to see that red and white and blue coming right at me when I got a shotgun in my hand.
I was thinking black and yellow.
Well, it could be that too. Yeah, black and gold runs pretty thick. You know what I mean?
I think that about wraps it up on the H&G questions.
Yeah, let's close it with
I got
you got
Yeah,
something?
I was hoping that they could tell us a memorable deer hunting story.
Do you remember the story or just any story?
I'm just sure that they have one that just pops into mind.
Well, here, I'm going to kind of buy some time till he can come up with something, but like
processing.
we do, like back home, we do a lot. And, you know, like I'll go up there to gun hunt with them, like on a Friday. I got a cabin that's fairly near to them, and we're around each other a lot, and I can tell you that, and even in the leases that we've been in and all, we have had, and I'm surprised I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we have laughed so hard at times and just had groups of people that we never met before in restaurants and all that, you know, that we've got involved in conversations and laughing and just getting rowdy, just having fun. We've done that across this country, I can tell you, in many different states of people we never even met. But, you know, a specific story, I don't know, man. I mean, one kind of does come to mind was we were on a hunt. It was a Weatherby hunt, actually, that we did H&G, and we both had a customer in South Dakota. And it was not a very big piece of ground. It's a long story, but it wasn't a very big piece of ground. It was a last-minute thing. And there was one big buck on it, and it was a nice one. And we're trying to get one of the customers to shoot it, and he missed his opportunity. And somehow Randy and I got together, rather than him with his customer, me with mine. We got together, him and I, with the outfitter. And we're in a truck, and I'm in the back seat. Randy's in the front seat, and we get to one of the big coulees and look down, and there's that deer. And the outfitter's like, there he is. So Randy bails out of the truck, and I go to bail out of the truck. He's got the child locks on. And all this, I'm watching all this unfold right before, and the outfitter looked around. He's like, oh, no, sorry. So he come and unlocked, and Randy's still getting set up. And I went over, and I laid down beside him. And, I mean, it was his deer. He did it. But I remember having the deer in the scope and watching. He shot, the deer went down, and it was, at that time, I think it was his biggest. It scored like 155.
Yeah.
Very nice deer. So, I mean, that was...
Whitetail.
Yeah.
And that's kind of wild. And I didn't even know where he was going with this, you know.
But that was when we were laying shoulder to shoulder when it happened. Got to do the whole thing together.
You're not gonna believe that, because that was one of the stories that just popped into my head while I was sitting here, just like off the cuff. You know what I mean? And that was the story he told. So, but you know, throughout this, like I said, there's so many stories you could say and whatever, and we've did so much together, you know, as far as turkey hunting and all this stuff. You know, we rotate, one calls, one shoots, that type of deal. And, you know, we're both unselfish when it comes to that. You know, I mean, we don't, you know, so there's certain things, you know, that sticks in my head a lot. We was turkey hunting out west, and turkey's gobbled, and he's coming. I know this is not a deer story, but
That's fine.
It's a cool story. So we're sitting there, and I said, hey, you're shooting, man. Get up there, I'm calling. So we're getting there, and he drops down in a ditch, and I'm thinking, this bird's coming. I'm thinking, what the heck's he doing? It's getting closer and closer, and all of a sudden the bird starts peeling to the right of us, and I'm like going, he's not shooting. I shot him. Boom. He turns around, jumps up, and says, what are you doing? I said, I didn't think you seen the bird. He said, I could see him bouncing his head coming in. I couldn't see him. And I was like, well, daggone, Steve, why didn't you shoot him? He said, I was getting ready to.
Well, as you know, well, you probably don't know, in the East, if you blink the wrong way, they're going to get you. I mean, they're that sensitive. But, like, out here, just coming in today, we had to stop and let 4 Jakes walk across the road.
I'm used to hunting turkeys in Missouri, and like the turkey hunting culture out west is just like, they're like, what do you mean about them yard birds? And like out east, it's like you would never get that close to a turkey doing that.
And I was just going to raise up. I had hunted, you know, in the west before, so I kind of knew. I was just going to raise up and shoot. But and it was funny because he said they were peeling off, and I was like, well, they were going like this the whole way. Coming right at me.
So that was a cool story.
Yeah.
Cool. I can't think of anything else for these guys. Any good PG jokes, Davis? Or?
Well, I want to go back to the mentor question because I meant to say this earlier. I think that, and I think we've both done this. I searched them out. I found them, or they found me, or whatever. But I for the last 15 years or so, I've tried to be that guy. So whether it's with my family or even his family or just people that I try to be accessible to them, because if I never kill no, don't take me serious on this. If I never kill another turkey, I've killed enough. I would way rather watch somebody coming up, teach them and what, because it's exciting to watch a guy do it, or a deer or whatever. So I try to be that mentor now, because I think they're the important ones. That's the ones that in our, like what we're doing, we need more young people coming, because if we lose them, we're out of business.
Yeah, Steve brings up an interesting thing about that whole thing. When my dad was growing up as a young man, it was kind of interesting. My grandfather never hunted, and someone did that to him, got involved in the hunting part of it. Of course, the passion part of it really came on, and again, that bled over into our family. And same thing. He said earlier that his dad never really hunted, and got mentored like that. And I think it's important as we start looking at this thing. Overall, Steve and I are roughly the same age, and it's like when I'm doing a sales promotion or whatever, I love to see it when those kids come in there. A young hunter, 15, 14. I love to see that, because that's, that keeps the sport going.
Yeah, I see some manufacturers miss the mark on that, and they don't. That's not their target, but it is the target. The 18 to 25. That should be everybody's target. It may not be the only target, but it's a big target. And I see a lot of manufacturers not pay attention to that aspect, and I think it's a mistake. Well, I know you're trying to wrap this up.
Oh, no, you're good.
Another thing that that I see, that I talk about a lot, like they may do them out here too, but we do consumer shoots. Some of our dealers will. They'll have all the manufacturers come in and set up your booth, and then people come in, they pay to shoot, and then you punch their cards, and then they take that back and get a discount, whatever. And, I just kind of noticed years ago that guys would come up and their girlfriends or wives would stand, they'd step back. And at one point I was like, I'm just going to try this. I was like, come up here and give this thing a shot. And I, explained it to them, and they'd shoot it. And it's like, oh, wow. And it kind of dawned on me that I don't want to sound, but a lot of women or girls kind of have been taught that when the gun goes off, there's carnage. It's just a horrible. But when they busted that balloon or shot the tannerite or what, it's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. They want to do it again. And then I'm starting to think, okay, well, you bring them in, mm-hmm. and then they're not going to teach their kids that there's carnage and it's all bad. And the next thing you know, you've got a family of 4 or 5 go out on a Sunday afternoon and shoot a little. They all shoot, but maybe 3 of them now are going to be hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. It's not for everybody, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of flipping the script to where it's like when you shoot a gun, it's like, oh, there's recoil and a loud noise and all these things. But if you flip it to being a positive experience where it's like a broken balloon or a target hit or something like that, you can really reinforce that. Like at the end of the day, it feels good to hear steel ring.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's just something about it when you're.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool, that you're saying about all that. I guess that's another part of me that's always respected Weatherby and how they look at things. Obviously, Adam always is a big time hunter, but Brenda now is involved, and that's a really significant point. And because from us, our sales, I mean, there's people that come out here and they see that, there's more women shooters now, and that's a really good thing, man. I mean, it's getting everybody involved in the sport, and like Steve said, it's not like I really respect that part about Weatherby in general.
We have 3 women going on this hunt with us this week.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
And they're all great shots. They had proper training and somebody gave them the opportunity. A lot of times women are better shots than most men.
Yeah, even with the bow, I noticed that back in the day, because they don't put the pressure on themselves like we do.
They're at least better than Randy for sure.
Well, no, but I again, to put a lid on that, it was amazing. It was like a light bulb goes off that these girls walk away and they're like, man, that was really cool. And then maybe you see them doing it at the next station as well. So I just always thought that don't be afraid to step out of the comfort zone, get them in, even a small kid. If you're right there helping them and all, and take the fear away. That's there's your opportunity to make a mark.
Mm-hmm.
Things that help, suppressors. if
Yeah,
you haven't jumped on the suppressor train,
Yep.
suppressors and a rifle that has the appropriate amount of recoil for the shooter to start.
Yeah.
You can always step them up after.
I think patience.
It's interesting that Steve brought that up about that consumer shoot. I just recently did one, and it was funny when a woman shooter come up there, and you were saying about suppressors. I purposely didn't have the brake on the rifles, and we were shooting a 240, and there was probably 3 or 4 different gals come up there, and the one girl, she'd never shot a centerfire rifle, and the first shot you could tell she was a little hesitant, and was worried maybe there could be recoil, and she rang steel at 300 yards, and she looked up at me because I'm sitting right beside her, but on the bench, and she said, that wasn't bad at all. So the next 2 shots, and obviously she rang steel again at 300 yards, 3 for 3, and not ever shot a 240 Weatherby in her life. And obviously doesn't hurt that you have a hammer bullet in there and it shoots really good and all that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it was cool to see that. And same thing happened on a youth, I'd say he was probably 15 or so, come up there, and he could tell he had shot rifle before, Pennsylvania. His dad was a deer hunter and all this stuff, and rang steel at 300 yards, and again, he didn't even hesitate. Again, no suppressor, no brake, and that 240 went off. He said, oh, man, that's pretty nice, So it was kind of pretty cool to watch that experience. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think patience and just giving the person the time to get comfortable with the gun and take a good shot and walk them through that whole process. It's like that with anything that you do, but especially shooting when it's making a loud noise, and there's this fear factor involved in the first time. So working them through that is a huge help. So
Sure.
And then I just wanted to say on our brand, I've really noticed over the last six years since I started, just at shows, we used to have every guy over 75 would stop at the Weatherby booth, and we love those guys. They're diehard Weatherby fans, but we've really seen a transition to a lot more younger hunters. I'm sure you've seen it at consumer shows, but we're really targeting a younger audience with our brand and our products to be able to help out that next generation to get into a Weatherby, not just because we think they're cool, but because we want them to succeed, and we know our brand is superior, and it's it's just like we want to get them started off right with a great rifle, and it's cool to see younger kids picking up on the Weatherby and carrying on the legacy for years to come. But it takes a lot of work from everybody, all of us, and the dads and moms out there that know how to shoot. They need to get out there and get their kids started.
Yeah, we always
or a newbie.
We have this thing in marketing where we always joke you can plug in any other manufacturer you want, but we're always like, when you're older, no kid's gonna be like, man, Grandpa had this manufacturer. Be like, no, Grandpa was cool and he had a Weatherby. So it's like we truly do we want to make products that are worth passing down. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and you could put in any manufacturer. We probably made the joke, but
Yeah.
we're like, no one was excited to get that passed down. But if it's a Weatherby, people are like, yeah, it's awesome.
No, they definitely, everybody knows the brand. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yep. It's a big brand, little company, really.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Well, and we just got to do that, the tour down there with a couple of our customers, and that is such a big deal. And I remember the first time I did it, and him and I drove out here that year, and 20 hours, 20?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you 12 hours of that trip back was dedicated to how does Weatherby even sell a gun for $600 or even $1,000 when you go through here and look at, how the thing is made, and not just that, but the machinery it takes to do it. I mean, I'm not,
Yeah, no, because even on our Vanguards, there is contouring, there's Cerakote, there's painting, there's all these hand touch points from whether it's a Vanguard and then Mark 5s, 307s are all made here, but even on the Vanguards, there's so many hands here in Sheridan.
Yeah,
that
and
touch
even my
that rifle.
customer on the way out here, I was kind of prepping him a little, or not necessarily prepping him, but just kind of getting his feel for what he, his view. And he kind of, had the idea that the truck backs up and you pull the gun off and you put it on a skid and you ship it out. He had no idea that, the amount of work that goes into it's not a gun when it comes in. It's a barreled action. And we do all the customization of it. Not, it doesn't come like that. And now he got to see it downstairs, and I could tell he was pretty blown away by it all. And then he can tell that to his consumers. That's the same with the ammo.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. The ammo is another thing. It's very significant. Why is it $20 more? Why is it $30 more? Well, because we make sure that brass is correct. And, every dealer we ever bring out here, that's a really big, significant point. They say, wow, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Well, it's pretty much they've got a hand load.
Yeah,
it's the
closest production type ammo. So we're just big enough that we can make a lot of ammo, but just small enough that you're going to get that kind of custom load into a production box. So.
Yeah, we still hand inspect every round and look it over with the human eye to make sure that there's no flaws. I think that's pretty cool. It's more time consuming than a lot of the other guys that have lasers set up to do quality control on their ammo, but it's hard to beat the human eye.
I made the comment down there because, when COVID hit, COVID changed the world, man, the whole world. There are way more Mark 5s sitting on a shelf today in the retailers than there ever was. I mean, I think we can all agree with that. And some of the feedback I'm getting now from the dealers, as I'm asking, well, why is it still sitting here? And the comments back are, well, guys look at it and they see that the ammo is double in some cases or more, and they don't want to buy the gun because of the ammo. So that down there, and then to add to that, one of the dealers that was with us said he's toured a lot of factories, a lot of ammo factories, the big guys, and he said that none of them have the touch that what they showed us down there.
Yep.
So, I think maybe you could look at this, or, Weatherby maybe take a look where we kind of tell that story that this is almost a custom load that's in a production model, because that will turn a guy when he sees that, because he's buying a $25 or $35 or up to $4,000 gun. The ammo is not the big deal. I think sometimes it's a principle.
Yeah, because in your head it's like if you're gonna buy a new Ferrari, right? You're not worried about oh, man, I'm gonna have to buy new tires in 4 years, and those tires no. So you don't. you have to kind of change the perspective. It's like, okay, well, you could go buy a box of ammo and a non-Weatherby caliber for $20 cheaper, right? But it might take you twice as long to find the load that likes your rifle.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you know, we have within our cartridges, and something's going to shoot out of that gun real well that you won't have to hand load. You
Right.
know? So,
yeah.
And that one box of 20 rounds might kill 20 deer too. You don't have to shoot near as many times usually because the knockdown power of the Weatherby calibers.
Well, and I
that
use
Roy
the
designed,
example.
so.
You know, guys will go in, they'll buy a $3,000 bow set up. Then they'll go over and they'll buy $1,000 worth of clothing. And then they'll go over to the tree stand section and they want to buy a $50 tree stand.
yeah.
The one thing that can save their life, they want to pay $50 for it.
Right.
It's in their mind. And I think the same thing translates into the ammo.
Yeah.
They, well, why would I want to buy $150 when I can buy $80? And even though they can do it, that's the mindset. So I think we need to just tell them why. And that, by seeing that down there, is where that starts.
Yep, I agree.
You know, and that window that, like I say, when I first started, that's kind of what I did initially. I was working in this warehouse, and I was in the ammo department. And the transition from those days of where it was like a $10 box for a box of shells to where it is now, they've all increased in dollars. So to me, I mean, I'm willing to spend $20 more to know that it's more of a custom load versus, I mean, because today it's, $39, $49 for just a standard basic bullet or something. It's a production load, where this is, for argument's sake, what can you buy? I mean, you bought soda before for 75 cents, and today we're buying water, for heaven's sakes. I mean,
For $3.
Yeah. And the Weatherby ammo is kind of a sweet spot too, because like Weatherby definitely has a good following of hand loaders. It's like, man, with some of the off the shelves, you're not gonna get a better group size. Like I'm part of the Mark V owners group on Facebook, and there one guy's like, man, how do I get this .28 down lower? And I'm like, I don't, maybe buy the factory ammo, because I don't know if you can get it any lower than that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun to see those people who are like super detailed.
Oh, I know. I watched that as well.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming.
That was cool. I was a little bit nervous when
Yep.
we walked in that door, because I thought, man, I don't know, sometimes under pressure, but it was fun.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been nervous. Talking's the one thing you do good.
I know.
So it's like it's the whole thing about talking. So,
there you go.
I always look forward to you guys coming out, and it's always a lot of fun.
And
glad
that's
to
why
have
we
you on
kind
the
of
team.
invited ourselves this time.
Well, we didn't try antelope. What are we going to do? Because we're coming. What else can we shoot?
Yep.
Prairie dogs? All right. Yeah.
We'll be there.
nice.
No, we enjoy. And again, and that's just, I can keep going forever, but
That's fine. Yeah.
This is like
is,
this.
yeah.
I know you're from the East Coast, but this is a Midwest goodbye right here.
Yeah, well, we've sold a lot of lines.
Remember when
through
you
the
tried
years.
to close it out on favorite
30
deer
minutes
story?
ago. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
I know, and I hate to be that guy, but I'm that guy.
And it's totally fine.
Oh, jeez. I knew that was going to happen. Okay. Totally lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No worries.
You said about rapid lines.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. This is why we're so good together. Through the years, and it's a lot, because they don't all stick. Some want to go different directions than others for various reasons, but we've repped a lot of lines. And honest to God, there's a handful of manufacturers through the years that you make personal relationships with. Mm-hmm. Beyond, hey, what do you have in stock, or can we give the guy a discount or whatever. That we know kids' names and what you do on the weekends, and we get text all the time about game that was killed or just jokes or the whole deal. So it's a friendship now, and we have to work together. And it just doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's special.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Randy? You good?
Well,
Well, I do. It like Steve said. This is pretty cool experience, to do this, and this passion of this brand in general, and just to come here and see where it was at. Big significance thing from going from here to once it came into Wyoming, and just a whole different atmosphere, and so. This is really always cool to come here and to do this.
And now we have to do it every year to do a podcast.
That's right.
We'll see if you guys have a camcorder by next year.
Oh, yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah.
I want them to start their own podcast. Frickin' Frack.
Be fun.
Yeah.
Be fun.
It would be. You learn a lot. You never can quit learning. That's always a kind of a cool thing, so...
Yeah, it's like if you're the smartest guy in the room, you got to find a different room because you got to keep learning.
Yep.
That's why
we can always learn from these young guys. You know what I'm saying, right? Fred?
Well, hey, listen. Sometimes it's good to be in a room so you can hand some stuff down to. Because we've seen some stuff that we come from a different time. I mean, when I started, we handwrote orders and then put them in the fax machine. That's how we transmitted our orders. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have you had 48 hours to get back to a dealer because you may be away and you have to get your voicemail at home. So it's a whole different way of doing business now.
What did a loaf of bread cost?
Probably about 35 cents. Probably about it. Yeah.
All right, folks.
Awesome, guys.
This was a fun one. Thanks, guys. Well, good luck in your hunt, and we'll make this a yearly thing.
Awesome,
man.
Cool. Thanks,
Appreciate you guys.
Yep.